Hi there, come on in. Before we get started, would you like a water or a tea?
Can I have tea, please?
Sure, what kind?
Any kind is fine.
Sure. You can have a seat.
Okay.
There you are.
Oh,
It's a little bit
thank you.
hot.
Oh, it's nice and warm.
So, your name is Mary Wilson. Is it alright if I call you Mary?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. Now, before we begin, I'd like to start off by introducing myself, explaining my role here at the agency, and going over the confidentiality. So, my name is Ernest, and I'm a social service worker here. My role here is to go over your information and the things that you describe and try to work with you to figure out some ways we can help make your different situations easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll work together and we'll try to expand resources for you and help you kind of navigate your situation together. Now, within the agency here, confidentiality exists like an umbrella. So I can speak to other people within the agency about your case, but they are still held to the same confidentiality that I am. So we cannot discuss any personal information that you give us outside of the agency.
Okay.
It stays here, 100% confidential. No one else will find your information. There are a few exceptions. So in the case of suspected harm to yourself, harm to others, suspected child abuse or elder abuse, court order or subpoena, so where maybe the police or the courts will need access to this information, then we have to give it to them. Or if there's suspected intoxication and maybe operating a motor vehicle. Basically any time where there's someone is in danger or
Okay.
threat. So that's what this form outlines here. If you'd like to take a second, if you'd like to look that over, and here's a pen, and you can sign and date it.
Okay.
Let me know if you have any questions.
What's the date today?
Today is March 31st.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary. All right. So, how's your day going today?
It's okay. It's kind of rainy out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit hard with spring. I find, some days are sunny, some days are rainy. I feel a little tired sometimes, waiting for summer.
Yeah.
So how was your commute here?
It was okay. I got my husband to drive me.
Your husband drove you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Does your husband normally drive you when you need to get places?
Yes, I don't really drive very often.
Okay. But you have your license?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. So, if you could, in a few sentences, kind of let me know what you think is happening and what you'd like to discuss today. Just in a few sentences.
In a few sentences. Well, my house is crazy, and I'm very stressed, and I feel suffocated. I'm having problems with my marriage due to this, and it's really taking a toll on myself.
Okay. So I hear you saying that your house is very full, causing you to feel suffocated. How many people live in your house right now?
8.
8 people. Okay. That's a pretty large number.
Yes.
Okay, I understand why you might feel suffocated. Now, who are all these people that are living in the house?
My husband's family.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. And how long have they been living there?
About half a year now.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, why are they living there?
Well, so me and my husband immigrated here from Italy, and what ended up happening is that his family also wanted to come here for a better life, and so we took them under our wing and said they could live with us, and so now they are our liability.
Okay, so you sponsored them.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm assuming if you sponsor them that means that they're dependent on you.
Very.
Okay. Now, are any of them currently working?
No.
Okay. So, to help me understand your family situation a bit, I think we might find it useful if you'd like to maybe do an eco map.
Okay.
So here's an example. And this eco map shows you in the middle, and it shows different people and things in your life. So things like maybe your parents or your siblings or other types of family. Maybe you could also include for yourself, your husband, your husband's family, any friends you have, any maybe other types of communities that you're involved with. This way it helps to give me a very physical picture of what your life looks like.
Okay.
So I'll give you a piece of paper here and a pen.
Okay.
So if you want, there's also a sample legend here. So you can do whatever type of lines or symbols that work for you and represent your relationships, how you understand them. But here are some examples maybe to get you started. You can see a dashed line here shows a weak relationship. There's a line with crosses through it showing that that relationship isn't, maybe they're not talking to each other right now.
Okay.
So they're distanced. A straight line just indicates probably an average relationship, but a thicker line can demonstrate a stronger relationship. So in these sources, maybe you have a group of people that you hang out with, friends, and they're a strong source of support for you, or good friends, or you to them, and you can put a thicker line for those stronger sources of support. You may also want to include arrows indicating the source of support. For instance, maybe if you are providing a lot for others, you can put the arrows showing you're putting energy into that person.
Okay.
Or if someone else is then supporting you, you can put the arrows towards you. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, so if you'd like to start with a circle in the middle, and we can write that that's you. Fantastic, Mary. Now, maybe you could draw a circle that represents your husband.
Okay.
And you can choose what type of line you'd like to put there, representing your relationship with him right now.
Okay.
Okay. And do you have any siblings?
I do.
Okay, and you can write, yes, whatever line. Fantastic. Maybe you can write now your husband's family.
Okay.
Okay, what about any friends you have?
I don't have many. I stay at home a lot.
Okay. Is there any community you're connected to? Maybe a church, or any type of group activities?
I used to be Catholic. Would that count?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, can you think of any other people or groups of people that are in your life?
My parents.
Okay.
I don't know. I attend a reading club once a
Oh.
week.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay. This is great. This will help me a lot to understand your environment, and it'll help me to understand the problems you're facing and maybe hopefully help me come up with some ideas we can work on together. Now, I see here there's an arrow pointing to your husband's family. So it seems like you're indicating that you put a lot of energy into them.
Yes.
Okay, and the arrow doesn't go back to you?
Not really. My husband's family, so we have his mother, his father, and his 3 siblings living with us, and his nephew as well.
Wow.
So there is a lot of people in my home, and none of them work. So I feel like I'm putting a lot more energy in by taking care of them, by looking after them, by cleaning after them, by doing laundry, dishes, dinner, etc. And I don't know, it's a very stressful situation for the fact that a lot of the times his mother especially is not very grateful.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that. Now, you've included dashed lines between, I see here you have your brother and your parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening with those relationships?
Well, they are back in Italy.
Okay.
My parents had gotten into some legal problem, and so I haven't seen them for a couple of years. My dad was an alcoholic, and that had transferred to my brother, who is now an alcoholic, and I haven't really talked to them since I moved, except for maybe once every 2 years.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you moving to Canada and starting a new life, although you've had a bit of difficulty here with taking on this responsibility, helping your husband's family. It sounds like maybe it was a positive thing for you to come to Canada to start a life here.
Yes, it was originally a really great plan.
On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not very positive, not very happy, and 10 being very happy and sort of a perfect life, how would you rank your life in the first few years coming here?
I'd say a 9. It was amazing.
Wow.
We moved here mostly because we wanted a better life, but he also got a high-paying job. And so we moved here, we put a down deposit on a very beautiful house. We were considering starting a family. We were just a very happy couple, only 2 years into our marriage at that point.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like that was a great time for you when you first came here. To help me understand the difference, the same scale from 1 to 10, currently how would you rank your satisfaction with your life?
A 3.
Okay. Well, I'd really like to look a little bit more into your family. As you've indicated, your family's back home. I'd like to maybe use a tool, if you're happy to do so, called a genogram. So here's the example. the circles in this legend
Yep.
represent females, the squares represent males. So this is sort of like a family tree where you have, so there's the mother and father, and the line that connects them is the marriage. We have a symbol you can use if you like for 2 cross lines indicating a divorce or separation. Then the line in between, going down, represents the children they have. So once again, you can see that generation. I put in this one the ages inside the boxes. You can also put other symbols. For instance, a line through the symbol indicates that they're deceased. Possibly a quarter of the square being colored in indicates an addictions problem. So if you'd like, we can go through one of these. So you can map out your family tree for me, and it'll show, if you can, your husband's family and your family,
Okay.
showing them together to help me understand maybe if there's some sources of support, or some other things, some other factors I can be aware of.
Okay. And this is a genogram. Would you like me to label it or anything?
You can label it however you like. You don't need to put the title at the top. If you, you can put your name at the top.
Okay.
And you can choose to sort this out however you like, and you can just explain to me your legend and your symbols that you would like to do.
Okay. So my mother, my father, his mother, his father. So my mother would be, oh gosh, and she would be 52.
Okay.
My father would be 57. They are, they're married. And then my brother would be 29, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I put him as a circle. And change that into a square.
Okay, that's great.
And then I would be 30. What if I don't know how old they are, Joe?
That's alright. You can just put what you feel is relevant
Okay.
as best as you can.
I don't know how old my husband's parents are, but should I make my husband and me closer together like this?
You can draw a line between you.
Okay. My husband would be 35. His brother would be, I'm not sure.
That's alright.
Sister is 25, and she was with someone, but they divorced. We
Okay.
have a child that is 7. No, not 7. 5.
Okay.
Okay. And so, alcoholism with my father, my brother, and my husband's brother as well. Same with this guy. I'm not not sure who he is. She left him because of alcoholism.
Okay.
And no one really in the family met him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is fantastic. So I see here that you've indicated that your father and your brother both have experienced alcoholism.
Yes.
How do you feel that that has impacted your life?
Well, my father wasn't an alcoholic until he got into legal trouble.
Okay.
And then when he got into legal trouble, he got out of all the charges and then started drinking because of the stress. So it wasn't, we were a bit older. I think I was probably about 17, 18 when this started happening.
Okay.
He wasn't aggressive. He was just kind of empty. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. All right, so it sounds like your family situation back home started to change right up before you ended up coming to Canada.
Yes.
Was that a reason for coming here?
It was part of the reason. My family wasn't very supportive or happy anymore. I was a newlywed, and my husband had gotten the offer for the job in Canada, and we just took it as fast as we could.
Okay. Well, it sounds like that was, once again, a very good opportunity for you to move into a more positive place because of coming to Canada.
Yes.
So you've expressed to me that your current living situation with your husband's family, I believe the word you said was you feel a bit suffocated.
Yes.
So in order to get to know you a little bit better, can you tell me what you feel in your life gives you hope?
What do you mean by hope?
Well, you know, you've taken the step to meet with me, a social service worker here, possibly to better your life, to try and take the problems you're currently facing and hopefully make them better.
Mm-hmm.
So what in your life is sort of motivating you to try and make your life better?
My relationship with my husband.
Okay. So you said that the first few years of coming to Canada and your settlement process here was fairly good. I believe you said that it was a 9 out of 10 for you.
Yes.
And you've said now that your relationship with your husband is something that gives you hope. But a little bit earlier you said that that's one of the problems you're having right now, is your relationship with your husband.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you feel that's changed?
Well, so I'm hopeful because I want to fix it. I really do. I love him very dearly, but it's becoming quite difficult considering his family's in the home. We don't have any privacy, we don't have any alone time. He's working extra hours not only to support me but to support the rest of his family while we're still paying off our mortgage. He is the only one working in the house at the moment, so it puts a lot of stress on him, which can make him angrier over time.
For sure. It sounds like the financial burden, as well as the loss of probably personal space in your home, has caused your husband to then have to work more.
Yes.
And so it seems like it's creating a strain on you and on him.
Mm-hmm.
So Having these extra people in your home, and although they are your husband's family, I imagine that might come with some loss of independence.
Yes.
As before it was you and your husband together. I imagine before your husband going to work, you had more time on your own. What kind of independence have you found hard to give up?
I would say my independence to be alone in general. Like, I can't go out to the store anymore alone. I can't even be in my own house alone. I can't be independent and be on my own. I have to always have someone attached to my hip, and that's the exact reason why I didn't want to have children in the first place, but now it feels like I have 5 adult children in my home. Well, 4 adult children and an actual child. But the child's not mine, and I'm not her caregiver.
Okay, so you're saying the ability to be alone, to be able to go places on your own, you're usually now accompanied with them.
Yes.
So is there anyone who is staying with you that is either particularly causing any specific stress to you?
His mother.
Okay. And what does that look like? Can you give me an example of a specific thing or a certain way that she is creating stress for you?
I have abandoned my faith as a Catholic woman. I figured that considering I'm no longer in Italy, I don't have to live by the Catholic faith anymore. I lived in a very small town where everybody knew everybody, and so if I was going against the values, my parents were sure to find out. And so when we moved to Canada, I decided to abandon my Catholic faith altogether. And she does not approve of that in the slightest.
Okay. That sounds like that might create an emotional difficulty for you. Having your mother-in-law, what it sounds like to me, impede a little bit on your ability to choose what's good for you.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine that might feel difficult in your own home, not to have that freedom. So I see here on the intake form that you filled out before today,
Okay.
that you had said you were considering maybe leaving and trying to get your own job and moving out of the house to gain some of that independence back.
Yes.
Are you still currently thinking about that?
Yes.
Okay, so I do see that you've mentioned to me that your hope that things will get better and the hope that your relationship with your husband will be strong enough. That in mind, let's try to explore this a bit together so we can help maybe come up with what you feel is best for you in this situation. Taking some time to really flush out what's good, what's bad, what are your real options, so you feel more confident, more comfortable in the direction you're going. So to do that, I'd like you to picture for me 6 months from now that you have the independence that you said that you were looking for, that ability to be free from that maybe persecution from your mother-in-law about your religious freedom to not practice, your own personal space, your own personal independence. So if you could imagine that feeling and you can picture for me what your life looks like. Can you tell me about that?
My life would be happier. I'd be a lot less stressed. I think my husband would also be a lot less stressed due to the fact that instead of just supporting him and I, he's now supporting 8 people in total, which is a huge difference, especially financially, because we took on his family. They aren't really able to work, like they're not working at the moment, but we still have to provide them with the supports they need to survive.
For sure. So hearing that, I'm hearing a lot of positivity around your relationship with your husband and your relationship strength to carry on and to keep moving forward together. So I'd like to do another scale from 1 to 10, if that's all right with you. Today, at the current moment, 1 being that you are not going to try to leave and move out of the house, and 10 being you are definitely going to leave and you want to do it as soon as possible. Where on that scale do you feel today?
I'm a 5.
Okay. So, you did say before that you were thinking about getting a job.
Yes.
I can also see from your eco map that you go to a reading club.
Yes.
Do you feel like getting out of the house and having connection with people outside of your husband's family, how does that feel for you when you go?
It feels refreshing, but not at the same time, because by the time I get out of the house, I just want to be alone. But I go to my reading club because I also love to read, but I'm also surrounded by people as well. There's probably about 7 ladies at my reading club.
Now, do you feel close to them? Do you feel that they're friends, people you could confide in?
Not really.
Okay.
Some of them are very judgmental, and I don't think they'd understand. Like, when I told them that my husband's family was moving in with us, the one woman, Joanne, she got very snotty about it, almost, about how his family can afford to move here on their own.
Okay.
Yes.
So not necessarily a source of support.
No.
So in following with your idea to maybe look for a job,
Yes.
Can you tell me about any actions you've taken or any preliminary thought you've given to looking for a job?
I have applied at the library because I do love to read. And I've kind of just searched the web and see what's in my area. I don't really want to work in the service industry with a lot of people just because I live with so many people.
Of course.
So that has limited me to less of an area of jobs.
Okay, well, you know what? I think looking into a job like working at the library sounds like it follows with who you are as a person. You've said that you like to read, and I think with your current living situation, having a place to go that is quiet
Yes.
and is more of a calm atmosphere sounds like it might be a good fit for you. So how do you feel about potentially pursuing a job and seeing how that goes for a little while, and then coming back in a few weeks to see once again ranking how you feel about potentially moving out?
I could do that.
As you said that you're about a 5 on the scale on whether or not you want to leave or not, it sounds like to me that you aren't quite ready to leave. You're on the fence.
Yes.
Okay, so do you feel as though you're taking care of yourself? emotionally, physically?
I feel I'm very comfortable in my home, and leaving would mean leaving my husband, who has not only been an emotional but also financial support for the last 10 years that we've been here together. And it's also like, even though his mother is very demanding and very strict on a grown woman like myself, she also is more of a mother figure to me than my own mother, because I haven't seen her in 6 years now.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. So, what I would like to move forward with right now is maybe considering some next steps. I was thinking that maybe there's a way for you to pursue a job like the library. Maybe we can help you find something else. So if you'd like, I could refer you to the Career Center, where
Okay.
they can help you maybe build a resume. As it said in your intake form that you haven't yet worked in Canada.
No.
So one of the issues some newcomers may face is a lack of credentials that exist in Canada. Even if you worked back home in Italy, those references or those job experiences, sometimes Canadian employers unfortunately don't recognize those. So I think it might be a positive thing for you to go to the Employment Center to get some help with building a resume and hopefully allowing you some resources to help you get that little bit of extra help so you can be on the same sort of equal advantage as
Yes.
other people applying to jobs. So how do you feel about that?
That would be actually fantastic.
Okay. Do you feel that is something that you really want to do and you might succeed at?
Yes, because even if I don't move out, I also feel like my marriage may be a bit better if I do start working and if I do start helping with the income, just because of how much stress he's under.
Fantastic. So this form that I have here also relates to confidentiality, like we explained before. So if you want to give me the permission to, the case notes that I've written here about you, instead of you having to meet with someone at the employment center and having to retell a lot of the same story,
Yes.
which I'm very grateful for you to open up to me and to allow me to access a lot of this very personal information to help you. Instead of having to go through all of that again, I can just send your case information directly over to them and it would still stay completely confidential. Is that something that you are comfortable with?
Yes.
Alright, so that's what this form states. It's called a FIPA form. If you want to sign and date it, just take a minute if you like to look it over and ask me any questions if it's not clear.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mary. Now we are almost done for today.
Okay.
Is there any other issues we haven't touched on that you feel you'd like to discuss?
Not sure. Lately, just because of the stress of having everybody in my home, I have felt a little sad. So, I don't know, depression does run in my family, and I don't know if that'd be something to look into.
Okay. So another resource that we could look into then is going to see a therapist for additional counseling.
Okay.
Is that something that you're comfortable with?
Possibly. Like, I'm not sure if I could really go that often.
Okay.
And I don't know, I don't really like pushy people who want to get information really fast.
Okay.
So,
What about doing something like a group-based activity? As you've said, the reading club that you attend, you don't feel very connected to those people.
Correct.
You felt that they were a bit, I believe you said, judgmental. So what about some type of like group therapy or group action-oriented sort of activity for you? Maybe like yoga. There's maybe something at the community center that doesn't cost a lot of money. Some things that are more accessible. Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, that would be a lot better.
Okay, well, I believe I have, just right here, the information for the local community center.
Okay.
And I know that they do some yoga classes at different times of the week. And I believe, according to your personal information, it has your address here. It's, I believe it's only a few blocks away from your house.
Okay.
As you said before, your husband sometimes drives you to places you need to go?
Yes, when he's home.
Okay, so this might be something you can do on your own, if it's only a few blocks away, not to have to rely on his schedule.
Yes.
Maybe a little more independence.
That would be lovely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So and this is the phone number. Okay, there you are. Now, because you have said that your family is back home, and because of some of the factors that led to the shift in relationship with your parents, with the situation you described, your father going through the legal problems and some alcoholism with your father and your brother.
Yes.
Do you feel that you feel at risk at all for any negative behavior?
From my father and my brother?
In terms of using substances to cope?
I don't know. I've drank it a bit, but I've seen what it does to the rest of my family, so I kind of avoid it as much as I can, but sometimes it is nice to sit down with a glass of wine once in a while to de-stress after everybody goes to bed.
Okay. To explore that a little bit, at the times where you feel the most stress at home, what are some coping strategies? What are some things you do when you get those feelings?
I read when I am home, like when everybody's either settled or hopefully gone out for the afternoon. But other than that, I don't really cope much. I just kind of have like a boiling pot until I finally lose it.
Alright, so maybe like I had said there, the yoga might be a good way for you to get some physical activity. But in the past, have you ever done any sports or things like that?
I used to swim a lot back in Italy just because the weather was so nice. But here in Canada, the seasons are quite drastic, and so I don't swim as much as I used to.
Okay. I do know that in the area there is the YMCA.
Okay.
Have you ever gone there?
No, I thought it was more for children.
It can be, but there is still also open swim times. Is that something you're interested in?
Possibly. I don't know, like to get out of my house and to go to swim I would need to get a new bathing suit, which costs money, and then I would need to figure out plans for dinner, and I would need to finish laundry before I go, and the house would need to be clean before I left, just because I'm essentially the only one who cleans. So.
For sure. It sounds like, although you loved swimming in the past, when you were back home in Italy, that right now it doesn't sound like something that is really accessible to you.
No.
With your responsibilities. Okay. Now, with the structure of your home life with all these guests, do you feel that there is hope that they are going to eventually move out, that they are going to be able to become independent themselves?
Not in the foreseeable future. None of them have jobs. Barely any of them have any intentions of getting a job. So.
Okay. So that sounds like it might be a difficult thing that you are feeling. Is there a specific emotion you feel when you think about that situation, that they're not really taking actions to move out?
It's frustrating because they're kind of using it more as a luxury than a support.
Okay.
Where our job is to help them get to Canada while their job is to settle, and none of them really have the idea or even want to settle.
Okay. Now, do you ever take the time to talk to your husband about this?
We don't have much time at all between his work schedule, which is normally from 5 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. He comes home, and then he leaves at 5 and he comes home at about 8, and he has dinner, and he normally just falls asleep on the couch just because he's so exhausted.
So it sounds like, as well as the addition of the stress of the family being in the home, that your relationship with your husband not only has this added stress, but you also are spending less time together, just the two of you.
Yes.
And that can be something that's very important for a relationship to be healthy. So do you feel hopeful that if you did get a part-time job going to the career center and that working out, do you feel that that added income could have an effect on your husband's dynamic, you and your husband?
Definitely. He would probably work less than 6 days a week. I could help support, and it's also, we would have more money to do things for us, like going out for dinner and possibly a movie once in a while, like to get out of the house, to get away from everybody. Maybe even go on a vacation, depending on how much I'm making.
Great. Well, it sounds like you have some great goals, some ideas that you want to work towards.
Yes.
This sounds like there's some room here for you to try and make this situation with your husband something you can help each other with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fantastic. All right, and so with your husband, you said that, he's not around a lot, he's working a lot. I imagine he might be feeling some extra stress. How do you feel his behavior is with coping with stress?
He doesn't. He just gets irritable.
Okay. And what does that look like? Can you maybe describe his behavior?
He doesn't talk very much. He normally sleeps on the couch.
Okay.
He can go up to our bedroom for hours at a time and not talk to anybody, leaving me alone with his mother and the rest of his family. Even like during dinner time, he can just get up and leave if it's too loud or if he's too frustrated.
Okay, so it sounds to me like the stress that he's getting, maybe with feeling tired from work, he's just pulling away a little bit. He's distancing himself.
Yes.
All right. Now, especially because, you've said the only group you have for social interaction outside of the house is the reading club, and you no longer participate in the church, do you feel that there used to be a feeling of spirituality, and now maybe there's an area there where maybe we could add a resource in terms of spirituality?
No. I was Catholic for 20 years of my life, 22 years, actually. Because even when we came to Canada, I still practiced my faith, but when I realized how wonderful the country of the free can be, and that I'm free to make my own decisions, and I'm free to maybe not even have a religion, I have completely abandoned it because I was skeptical to begin with, and then I just got kind of frustrated just because the things that I thought and beliefs that I had were seen as wrong.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is the ability that you had to come to Canada and the freedom to not feel that pressure to have to be tied to the religion. You feel more of a spiritual release because of that.
Yes.
So just so I can make sure that if there's any area in your life that we could add a support or add something you need, we can look at that. But it sounds to me like you were saying that the spiritual aspect of your life doesn't necessarily need a new source for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Say we are 5 years down the road. Do you feel that you're going to be in a place you feel you're taking care of yourself?
I'm not sure. It really depends on what kind of job I get. It really depends if my husband's family's still living with us. It depends if my husband's any happier when his family's moved out and he doesn't need to support 8 people.
Okay. You had spoken before about when you first came here, first 2 years being very happy, that you and your husband had, gotten this beautiful new house, you said, and you're still working to pay off the mortgage, but the other aspect you had said was maybe contemplating children?
I'm 30 now, and so the thought of children is kind of starting to edge out. I'm getting older, and it's also, we bought a 5-bedroom house, and currently that is being taken up by his family, because we have 1 room. His brother has 1 room, his parents have 1 room, his sister has 1 room, and our nephew has 1 room.
Wow. All right. So if you could imagine your life where it's just you and your husband again, do you feel that would change how you feel about maybe having children or your future?
I think so, but it would have to take some time to kind of relax over what was going on, and I think if they finally move out, I'm going to just want to hang out and be by myself for a bit.
For sure. So it sounds like to me you're saying that it's not something that is a high priority for you.
Right.
It's not on, a short list. Maybe a longer list. If we get to all the first things first,
Yes.
then maybe we can relook at that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's good to know where we're at for that. Now, it sounds like your husband and you have been very close, and you still have that hope, but it sounded before like you said that he's distancing himself from the stress.
Yes.
So how would you feel about maybe going to see I know we had said before about a therapist, and you had kind of said about affording it and sort of taking that time. What if there was an option to find someone who worked on a sliding scale, so who could be sort of income geared, and they could lower the rate? Would that be something that seems more accessible to you?
That would be yes.
Okay, and I remember when I said it before, you said, you don't want someone kind of pushy.
Yes.
Is there a preference you would have to maybe working with someone who has a similar background to you, maybe someone Italian, or someone who used to be religious, or maybe male or female?
I would say a female would be most comfortable, just because the way my husband deals with things is that he is right and no one else has an opinion.
Okay.
And so having more of a feminine aspect on it would probably make me feel more comfortable and more heard, because she could probably relate.
Okay. So there is someone that I had in mind, if you're interested. Her name is Janet Goodhooft, and she is a therapist at Oakville Counseling.
Okay.
So she has experience working with women in families that have immigrated, either with newcomers or someone like yourself who has sort of been in the settlement process already and is kind of continuing to move on with their new life in Canada, but still experiencing some difficulties. She has experience with that. Is that something that you'd maybe feel comfortable? She does operate on a sliding scale, so we could adjust the rate to something that you could afford.
Yes.
Okay. Just to me, it sounds like with your family in Italy and your husband distancing himself, it might be nice for you to be able to have someone to help you cope with some of the emotional sides of this, to help you take care of yourself. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll sign another FIPA form if you're comfortable with that, so I can send your information to her. That way we can allow her to have your case information, and hopefully we can set something up for you with a sliding scale. Great, thank you. Now, before we end today, would you like to maybe come back for a follow-up appointment so we can check back in maybe 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would really like that. That way I can check in with you and see if you were able to go to maybe the Career Center, or how things have shifted for you.
Okay.
2 weeks' time. And is your husband going to be picking you up, or how are you getting home?
I assume he'll be picking me up. If not, I'll just take the bus.
Okay, so when you go to the reception on the way out,
Mm-hmm.
If your husband isn't picking you up, we do have bus fare available, if that's something you'd like.
Okay.
All right, so we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. It
Okay.
was very nice to meet you, Mary.
Yes, you too.
And take care.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kaitlyn Randall, and I played the Observer in today's roleplay.
My name is Ernest Gleeson, and I played the role of the social service worker.
My name is Alexandria, Barrault-Rooyakkers, and I played the client Mary Wilson.
So do you guys want to do a quick rundown of the client and their presenting problems?
Sure. So Mary is a 30-year-old married woman who had moved to Canada 10 years ago, and now, because of the family sponsorship program, her husband's family is now staying with her. Mary's feeling a lot of fatigue, a lot of suffocation. She doesn't feel like she has much freedom, and kind of judged in her own home, which is becoming quite a problem.
I think adding to this is our understanding from our courses that through the family sponsorship program, Mary and her husband are now responsible for taking care of the family that has come here. They cannot access Ontario Works or any other social assistance because they have to financially guarantee taking care of these people they sponsor to take in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So until the family could take care of themselves, it is up to Mary and her husband to make sure that these people have all of their needs met.
Yeah.
Currently, Mary is not employed. She's looking for employment, but has not found any opportunities or been given any opportunities in her community yet. It is causing a lot of stress on her husband because her husband is the only person in the entire family who works. So he is responsible for financially supporting everyone in their household. Having his family in their household has caused a lot of stress between their marriage, and they often don't have time to spend with each other. They don't have a very high income, so they cannot go out to the movies or on a date like many other couples, and it's caused their relationship to be a lot more weak over the past few years of their family being in Canada with them.
Yeah.
And since the husband's working about 6 days a week, and Mary isn't having a lot of social support and their relationship is stressed, on her intake form she did include that along with maybe getting a job, she was thinking of using that income to move out on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the role play, we kind of looked at maybe exploring her relationship with her husband, exploring her other social networks, and sort of her life from an ecological perspective to see where her sources of supports are,
Mm-hmm.
and to sort of see how she best wanted to move forward.
Yes. Mary also has a background as a Catholic woman. She has not practiced the religion in many years, but her husband's family is Catholic, and it causes a lot of tension between her husband's mother, her stepmother, and her, because her stepmother does not agree with the fact that she does not practice the Catholic religion like everyone else in the family.
No.
And it causes a lot of stress between them. She also, Mary has a health history as well in her family. Her father was an alcoholic, and it caused her brother to also get into alcohol. She currently does not have any issues with it, but occasionally does enjoy to have a glass of wine here and there to relax.
And also, at the end of the session, Mary also disclosed about feelings of feeling slightly depressed. And she said that it does run slightly through her family, and that it may be a contributor to the alcoholism in the family.
Yes.
One of the things that we decided to do with the social service worker to help near the beginning of the session was to use a genogram in order to allow the client to not only tell her story a bit, but help to understand her family, especially from more of a biological perspective, as well as a psychological perspective. We could understand a bit of the alcoholism and the aspects that played genetically through her family.
Mm-hmm. I find that the genogram and the eco-map, having Mary complete them, it really did help us, or me as the observer, off on the sidelines to complete the BPSS assessment and to go and find things to put into each category. So just to go and start off with a couple questions, what are some things that you guys believe went really well?
For me, I felt like Alex, playing Mary, did a great job of being able to be very realistic and sort of connect to the issues. I feel like she didn't necessarily agree to everything that I was going to say. She made sure to be a little bit more realistic.
I think Ernest, as the social service worker, was also highly realistic. He carried out the session as if it was real, even though it was a made-up situation, and he continued to keep calm, even though he knew about as much as my situation as I did.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I personally think went really, really well was the referrals that Ernest made. I believe in total he made 3 different referrals. One that would help her with employment, and that was to the Career Center. And then he also recommended that she could go to the YMCA because she mentioned earlier in the session that she used to enjoy swimming while she was in Italy, but does not have time to do it anymore. So he also recommended that she could go to somewhere like the YMCA, which is fairly inexpensive, so it would be affordable for her. And maybe get back into swimming is something that she could enjoy. And he also made a suggestion of a counselor that helps with newcomers and does both individual and group counseling. So what were some things that you believe could have been improved upon? Hard question. What do you believe you guys could have done better in this situation?
I think for me, reflecting afterwards, I realized that I may not have worked as much from a feminist perspective, and I maybe could have spent more time looking at the fact that Mary is a woman, and because her husband was working, maybe exploring some of the ways maybe she was feeling oppression due to her role in the family and her position, and sort of the expectations that those relationships were causing. Maybe this could have been affecting her relationship with her husband, her role in the family responsibilities, whether or not she felt capable of getting a job and these other sorts of things. That could have affected her situation a lot, and I didn't necessarily go in that direction as the SSW.
As a client, I would say that I should really work on trying to keep my professionalism in track. It was quite difficult just because Ernest is a friend and a colleague that I would have to try to keep a straight face and really put myself into the client's shoes that in the end became really draining.
I do agree with Alex. It seemed to be very hard to get into the characters and both the counselor and the client. It's very difficult to put yourself into someone else's shoes and play that out for an entire hour. This is the longest role play that we have done so far, so it was a very new experience for us, and even though it was very rewarding, it was probably a bit difficult to stay in that character for an hour. So one thing I think could have been improved upon, just from what I saw as the observer, was that maybe there could have been a bit more rapport building in the beginning. And I think it was difficult at first because you guys are getting into it and you're a little bit nervous, so it's kind of hard to come up with things to say. Building rapport with a client can be a bit difficult, and finding the words to say, I guess. So I think that could have been improved upon, but I do think they still did pretty well at it.
Yeah, it's also really hard to build rapport when you already know the person. Like you know the person, you're comfortable, and this is a made up situation where it's not new. You know this person, you know them as a colleague, and then they're just playing a role. So it's really difficult to have rapport building when there already is a rapport.
Yeah. What do you think made you nervous beforehand?
I think for me, moving into this role play, knowing that I was focusing on a BPSS approach and trying to look at the strengths-based perspectives as well as risk factors and all the different headings, I think when I was focused on that, I wasn't as focused on social service worker skills. So I wasn't as focused as my other role plays on thinking, okay, I want to make sure I practice scaling questions, open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, partializing, prioritizing, those things. I think I did do, hopefully, most of them, but I wasn't as deliberate with those.
Yeah. For me, I'd say it was kind of pretending that I didn't really know what was going on as a client. Like a regular client wouldn't exactly know the rapport, know what a genogram is, know what an ecogram is.
I didn't know the social worker terms,
yeah,
so it's hard not to use them.
It was really difficult because I was about to say words like rapport and other social work terms that I could have related just because I'm in the course and I could relate to it, but I was trying to act as a client that would not know exactly what was going on.
Yeah. One thing that I was a little bit nervous about before starting this role play was probably, I was on the sidelines playing the observer, and I was filling out the BPSS chart while they were acting out the role play. And one thing that made me very nervous is that I would miss something very important, and that I'd be so focused writing something else on the chart that maybe I'd miss information while they were speaking. So it's something that I've never done before. I filled out a BPSS chart in class, but I've never done one on a live role play that was going on right in front of me. So I was a little bit nervous to make sure that I completed every part of the graph and that I didn't miss any really important information.
I would also like to add on another thing that I kind of got nervous about was in the last role play when I was the social worker, I was pretending to take notes.
Yeah.
And then I actually used case notes afterwards, just remembering the actual event. But for this assignment, I was really focused on the fact that we do need to have a lot more case notes.
Yeah.
So I was nervous about the fact that I wanted to write everything down. I wanted to catch important information, but I felt like there were times where I was trying to finish the thought and I left gaps of silence, and I didn't want to make the client uncomfortable. So I was nervous about that.
Yeah, we've been warned about that by teachers before, that you don't want to sit there and only be writing directly in your notebook and not be practicing solar and making eye contact with the client and so
Minimal
forth.
encouragers.
Yeah, you want to make sure there's a lot to do while you're the counselor. It's very difficult to handle thinking about BPSS and all the risk factors and filling out case notes, and also trying to remember what you actually need to be asking the client and coming up with referrals. Like, it's a lot to balance, so it is pretty stressful.
Yeah, for Ernest though, he used paraphrasing a lot to really fix those gaps, to really make sure that he wasn't missing anything, and that if he had missed something small, I would be able to correct him or continue the sentence.
Yep. So, Ernest, what type of helping skills did you use and why?
Like Alex just said about paraphrasing, but I think the first one that I know I focused on was at the beginning I asked her as the client to, in her own words, sort of reiterate her presenting problems. And I think because she had noted, the family living with them, feeling suffocated by that, not having enough space, kind of wanting to get a job, feeling stressed with her relationship with her husband. There were so many aspects here. They were all interrelated, but I wanted to make sure that I really focused on partializing. So I could take one chunk of the story at a time, so it wasn't as overwhelming to try and look at and deal with and hopefully create next steps.
Yeah.
I find that by using partializing, which is a very important helping skill and one that we've been focusing on throughout, especially second term, you are able to also come up with a lot more questions. I feel that if you just took it all, like the entire situation that she was facing on at once, you wouldn't really be able to fill in that complete hour. So by going and paraphrasing and partializing her story and her presenting issues, he was able to go and give each aspect of the issues, like each issue she was facing, the attention it deserved, and fill up that time that we had to fill. So Alex, are there any helping skills that you really believe helped? I know you mentioned paraphrasing already, so.
Yeah, paraphrasing worked really well. And also, he used solar really well. He didn't break eye contact, which was kind of difficult for me as the client, because when he was being genuine and smiling and just being a social worker, it was just really hard to keep my professionalism as he was smiling at me, because it made me want to smile and laugh back.
Yeah, I do think that you did practice solar and grew very well, which is very important in the position of a social service worker. So one helping skill that I believed really helped was probably that he was constantly reflecting content and meaning, and going back and reflecting content that she mentioned earlier in the counseling session, to go and bring it back and relate it to the issues she's facing now, and also to show her that she's being heard and that you're practicing active listening, and also just look at her intersectionality, because there are many issues she's facing. She is a woman, she is unemployed, she's not necessarily a recent newcomer, but she did come to Canada 10 years ago, so she isn't from Canada, and it still is a different environment compared to Italy. So there are a lot of issues that she's facing, and you want to go and look at every aspect of her intersectionality and not just one particular issue, so to speak. So, Alex, how did you feel about playing Marie?
Playing Marie was easy but difficult all at the same time. It was really, because it was easy due to the fact that there was a set line. I knew that she was married, I knew that her family was living with her, and the emotions that she was feeling. But being able to really portray that properly was very difficult because I'm not from her situation. I'm not 30 years old. I'm not Italian. I did not immigrate here, so I can't put myself into her shoes as much justice as she would need.
We decided to have Alex play the client in this role play because we were given the option of playing Marie. She was one of the options given to us by our teacher. Marie was a character who his main presenting issue is that her husband's family has migrated to Canada. Now they're under the same roof, and it's very overwhelming for her. It causes a lot of fatigue, and it's very hard financially for them to support them. So Alex actually comes from a very large family with a lot of little kids, so she has that kind of experience of being overwhelmed sometimes by not having a ton of space of her own and being surrounded by so many people constantly and having to just be around them all the time. She isn't really given a break because they are always at her home, right?
Invasion of privacy.
Yeah. So that's why we had Alex play the client. I think that she did it incredibly well, and I think that her personal experience with living with a large number of people really did help her put herself into Marie's shoes and get into the character. So
I think we also chose Marie's character to be as more realistic as we could. We wanted to make sure we weren't necessarily focusing on someone who was maybe a racialized person or someone that was so far away from any of us that it may come across as maybe culturally insensitive, us trying to imitate them. So we thought that that was maybe a more appropriate way to go.
Yeah, we tried not to make the client too far off from many of the realities that many people we know or we have gone through ourselves. That's why we picked Marie initially, because we thought that she would be a good fit for Alex to play. So I think it worked out in that sense, and we also tried to go and offer many presenting issues for her so that we wouldn't only have one issue to go off of, I guess. It's kind of hard to explain, but we want to make sure that we really touched on many different areas of intersectionality, such as having issues with her husband, having issues with religion, not having many social supports for her to go to, not having any privacy, the financial insecurity, and so forth. I think that having all of those really helped create a realistic character, because all of those issues are things that many people that we will be working with in the future will be facing. So I think it was a very realistic situation that we came up with, and
Definitely.
yeah, I really enjoyed her character. So, Ernest, how did you feel about playing the social service worker?
I felt a lot of probably stress and pressure to meet that hour-long mark. I would have to say, though, compared to the previous role play number 3, I don't feel as drained playing the social service worker. I feel like after doing this number of role plays,
having the experience.
That 40-minute role play was really, really draining, and it was really hard to try and ask those questions, to try and put myself in the role of a social service worker. But I feel like this role play was a little bit easier for me to fit into that role, and to kind of know where I was going, to say, okay, you know what, we're at the halfway mark. I thought we were kind of closer to done. How am I going to fill this time? And I don't feel that I panicked like I did in roleplay number 3.
Yeah.
I felt like I was like, okay, let's just keep going. And it felt a little more natural for me to fill that time meaningfully, to still make sure the questions were pertinent to the client's presenting issues, that we were still continuing to identify presenting problems and exploring how the client was really feeling about them, trying to get the client as much as possible to use that narrative perspective to put the story in her own words. So that way I wasn't interpreting so much. I actually had a lot of quality information that I didn't have to read into. I didn't have to read between the lines. I was getting, Mary's version of the story, Mary's opinions, Mary's, scaling question, these sorts of things. And then from there, to be able to work on together the next steps and trying to see if Mary felt, that efficacy of, I believe things will get better. I believe that these next steps are something that could work for me, that belief in those referrals to work.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Ernest said. This is our fourth role play that we've done this semester alone, and each one, I've done all of them with Ernest, and I would say in each one you've grown a lot more confidence, and it probably does become a lot easier. I played the social service worker in role play 3 as well, and I noticed that even the 2 role plays that I'd done before that had really helped me with remaining calm, knowing what to say, how to even complete the introduction, because it can be difficult to remember all the aspects of the introductory stage, but I do believe that it does get easier over time, and it's going to help us in our future careers quite a bit. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but what kind of approaches did you try to focus on?
I think definitely the narrative perspective, getting the client to put the story in her own words. I think maybe certain clients who aren't as quick to open up, or maybe if their English isn't as good.
Yep.
But having a client who spoke very proficient English, not a problem. I could tell the client seemed very comfortable in explaining her story, especially as sort of we got to the further end. It was easier to get her to convey the issues by telling her own story and letting her kind of let it unfold.
Yeah. So Ernest made, I believe it was 3 referrals throughout the role play. Yeah. So throughout the hour-long role play, he made approximately 3 referrals. I believe that they were highly fitting for the client. I believe that he picked things that would fit all aspects of her needs. She did have issues, like financial issues. She was not able to afford really expensive counseling or to partake in a lot of more expensive resources within the community. So I think that he found good resources that fit her financial needs as well as her mental needs as well. It fit her income, and also he made a referral that would help her with her issues of finding a job, which I think was very good, because she did mention that she was thinking about leaving her husband, but her husband is the only one that currently works and pays for all of their needs. So for her to go and have a job, it would probably go and boost her self-confidence, but also go and allow her to leave the household if that's something that she decided she wants to do. And one thing that I thought was kind of fun that Alex did that I haven't seen in our role play that we've done yet is he actually made a referral at one point and she turned it down. She said, "That's not what I'm interested in." I feel like he was a little bit nervous at first, but you adapted very well. But she said, "I'm not interested in that. I don't know if it fits my needs perfectly. I don't know if it's exactly what I want." So I think that's a very realistic situation, because not every referral you're going to make is going to be accepted by the client. Maybe they don't believe it fits their needs, or there's kind of a presenting issue there's another issue that prevents them from being able to access that referral that you're making. So I think that that was very realistic, and it'll happen with our career in the future, but I do believe you worked around it very well, and he thought of other referrals that would be more fitting for other things that she needs. So, do you feel that you used used anti-oppressive practice at all?
I think so.
You did.
I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't advice giving, that I wasn't assuming the client's problems or assuming how the client felt, or assuming what was best for the client. I really wanted to make sure anytime that I kind of wanted to shed light on an area, it was just so that Mary could take the time to look at that area that we're going down and to take the time to reflect on it herself and to say how she felt about it. Whether it was, exploring her spirituality, That was something that we hadn't really talked too much ahead of
Yeah.
time about. And so on the spot, Alex was able to take the character in a way that she wanted. And, you know, coming from the BPSS approach, looking at that spirituality, saying, you know what, I did practice religion. And so for me, I said, you know, I tried to look at that to see, you know, does this client now feel that something's missing in their life? Because sure, it felt good for her. The best decision for her at the time was to no longer practice that religion. But does she feel that that's something missing, and maybe she wants to try and find something else to fill that spiritual need? So for the client on their own to reflect on that and say, you know what? And I believe the client's decision was to say, my ability to choose for myself, not to have to feel forced to practice, that gives me a spiritual freedom, so I feel fulfilled just in that. That sense of my own inner being, of that freedom to choice, I feel good on my own about that.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. From the side, I do believe that you practiced anti-oppressive practice extremely well, and that is something that we have focused on a lot over the past year in our program, so it was nice to kind of see it come to life in a role play, and I think it came very natural to you as well because of all the practice we've had with role plays and also just learning about it in class and how to apply it to counseling situations. So I think that went really, really well.
He also did a good job, like, by not questioning what I was saying, whereas some people who aren't experienced in social work, if I said that I was no longer wanting to practice my Catholic religion, some people will go, why? Or I wanted to leave my husband. Well, why? Like, he did very well at keeping his professionalism and his anti-oppressive and letting me explain why in my own terms without him being very forceful about the information.
He didn't like push you into any exact answer or shame you for having any feelings that or any emotions that she was feeling. So I think that he made her feel very comfortable with opening up to him, which created a very good counseling session that addressed all of her needs, and
yeah, definitely.
I think it went well. So what do you think the importance was of making Marie's brother and father alcoholics?
I think the importance was going into the biological area. To see if there's any biological issues with health, mental health especially.
Marie was facing a lot of stress, and for many people who she didn't really seem to have many coping strategies. The only one that she mentioned throughout the role play was that she would occasionally read, but she also said that she didn't really have many other coping strategies within her life. She didn't have many people that she could talk to. She didn't have really a close relationship with any of her family, hasn't talked to them in years. Her husband and her are currently on the rocks. She doesn't have any resources in the community. She doesn't get along with the people in her book club. So she is under a lot of stress, and she doesn't have a lot of people that she can talk to about it. So for people that maybe don't have the best coping strategies, alcohol is something that they may turn to as a way to relieve their stress, relieve their emotions, the negative emotions that they're feeling. So with her having a past of her father being an alcoholic and her brother later on being an alcoholic as well, it was definitely a risk factor for her because she is predisposed to it, and it fit into the biological aspect of the BPSS assessment.
As well as psychological.
And psychological as well.
They were risk factors as well as sort of from a genetic perspective, but also that lack of social supports. Yeah. So there were several risk factors there all through all of them.
She had many, many risk factors, which I think you addressed very well. So why do you think it was important for us to make Mary's family Catholic? Or no, sorry, Mary's husband's family Catholic. I worded it wrong.
Well, coming from Italy, like an Italian family, I know for a fact that the Catholic religion is very, very strong there. And so I thought that'd be well to kind of relate back to her culture, but also to give a sense of spirituality for the BPSS. I think it also kind of gave a reason behind a lot of the conflict that she had with her husband's family as well. Instead of just them living in the house, there's also that religious aspect as well, which is a very realistic issue that many people face, not agreeing with maybe their family or their spouse's religion. It can definitely cause a lot of stress within relationships, both
romantic, friend-wise, family-wise. So I think that it was a very realistic issue to kind of include in the role play, and I think it fit very well into our character. Like you said, it is in Italy, it is common. The Catholic religion is common.
Yeah.
So I do think it fit very well into our character.
And I think it added some depth to sort of the presenting problem. I mean, the background story that we were given as this option was that, you know, she's looking for a job and she's thinking of leaving, like moving out. But she doesn't, like, her husband is basically her only type of real support and strength here in Canada with no other social supports. It seems quite drastic that something's pushing her to want to, like, cut ties and move out on her own. It seems quite drastic. So by adding that depth, that extra layer to the fact that, you know, not only is the family there and she's losing this privacy and it feels a bit suffocating, it's the fact, this extra layer that, you know, the mother-in-law is kind of pushing her even further away.
Yeah.
So one last question, just to wrap it all up. Do you believe that completing this role play with Marie as the client will help you with working with people in similar situations in the future?
I think for sure, you know, to go through a role play and look at someone who is, you know, they've immigrated to Canada, but now they're more on the integration stage. So they've been here for more than just a few years. They've not, you know, learning languages, identifying resources.
Starting to adapt.
These sorts of things. And the husband had, you know, found a job in his desired field. Those sort of things that indicate that they're more in the integration stage. So to work with a client that has maybe a more complex storyline than in the past we've done the clients with presenting issues that were maybe a little bit more one-dimensional. So I think this was a lot more realistic. So I think this situation, having this woman going through these situations, was very real.
Yeah.
So I think it helps a lot.
A lot of the presenting issues that she had were incredibly realistic, which I mentioned earlier. Having issues with stepmothers and family members, having issues with health and relationships, they're all very realistic. So I think it will help working with many clients in the future.
Yeah, and for me, working with clients, like, I have not really been I have not really witnessed or really experienced the struggles that many people will have when they're integrating or immigrating, or even have family from a different country come over. But putting myself in her shoes really opened my eyes into what could be going on in her head, just because I put her situation in my mind.
Yeah, getting into the client's shoes really helps you empathize with them later on when you're working with clients in similar situations. I agree. I think for me, it was kind of the same. Seeing that situation play out, I think I got a general idea of how to work with people in that particular position. So yeah, that's all the questions, and thank you for watching our video.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Yay!